What's up? This is Rebel Radio.
What up? What up? This is DJ Newmark.
This is Peanut Butter Wolf.
It's your boy. It's okay.
Keep checking out Rebel Radio.
Rebel Radio.
This is Rebel Radio.
We're in the place right here. Rebel Radio is going down.
Would you say Rebel Radio?
Oh, wait. Let's do it again.
Rebel Radio.
What's up, Rebels? Welcome back to Rebel Radio, the weekly show where I bring you the rebels who are shaping our culture. I'm your host, Josh Levine. This week, I bring you, I think, a really interesting conversation with Cameron Almasi. Cameron was a concert promoter out of the Bay doing heavy metal shows, made a little bit of a pivot into EDM shows, and now he's made another move into launching a management company, looking after some up-and-comers, definitely names to watch, 10K Cash, Truth, Spaceman Zack, and he's also the co-founder with Young Thug of the Family Business Festival. And so we have a really great conversation about what it's like being an indie player, especially in a market with huge competitors. And I mean, I love his perspective about how you structure the game in a way that you can win, especially when you're outgunned by these big companies. And the analogy he uses is, it's the Honda versus the Bugatti, right? And we tend to think of like the bigger company is better, but maybe not. Maybe you can be bespoke and provide, a much better level of service when you can focus. Anyway, let me know what you think. Let's get into the interview with Cameron Almasi. And then I grew up in the city. I've been in here in LA since after high school. So I'm LA's home now, but
you're from
I grew up. Born, raised? Yeah.
Right on. Bay Area fan, bro.
Where are you from?
So I grew up in the outskirts. I mean, I grew up in Palo Alto.
Okay.
It's just easier to say SF.
Sure.
Most people don't know what that is. But
of course.
I grew up there.
Yeah.
I went to state college. I went to Sonoma State for like a year.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of realized, like, I was like, this is too small town for my vibe. Like, I can't do this. And went back home and started throwing shows. And eventually one thing led to another, from throwing hardcore shows, started throwing electronic shows. And I'm not sure if you know the Vital Events people out here in the Bay, but I guess they caught wind of what I was doing on the electronic side of things, and we had a lot of mutual friends, and a few referrals went in their way about me, and they needed help with marketing at the time, so they picked me up, and I started, I guess that was like my first paid job in music, was just doing marketing for them.
Okay. What was it? Do you remember the first show? Well, actually, I want to stop you for a second. I want to go back to the very beginning of this journey for you. Do you remember the first record you ever bought?
I want to say it was Santana, and it was that Supernatural? Was that the album he put out with Smooth on it?
Yeah, that was like his comeback record.
Yeah.
That was produced by a good friend of mine, Dante Ross.
Oh, no shit.
A&R legend and producer, yeah.
That was a good record. I was super into Latin music as a kid, bro.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, so my grandma had Parkinson's growing up, and she was super sick. My dad was always working, so he always had caretakers in the house, right? And they were all usually Hispanic, and so they'd always be playing like that, or there was like Mark Anthony was always playing in the house, or Ricky Martin was playing in the house, and I was super into it because I loved like the vibe, I guess, of the music, really.
Yeah. I mean, no doubt those rhythms are undeniable. Yeah. A lot of times. And it's funny, how you're obviously a long way from that, but those experiences shape us, right? And how we get introduced to
100%
to this stuff, it stays with us sometimes forever.
100%. I couldn't agree more. It's like one of those things where, like, honestly, dude, looking back at it, it's like, I feel like music was always such a trend in my life that it wouldn't have made sense to do something else.
Yeah.
Like I can't really see an option two, like what I've done.
So let's dig into that getting started. And you were talking about Vital Events a little bit. And so first of all, what was the first show that you threw or you worked on or you got paid for, or where it wasn't just going there to party?
So there was, I mean, if I'm being like super specific, like if I'm going to the beginning, I was in a local band.
Okay.
Out here in the band, there was a venue in Walnut Creek called the Red House back in the day, and that was like the spot for like Bay Area metal shows. Like all the up and comers were coming out of there, like bands like All Shall Perish or like Fallujah. We would have like touring metal bands like the Faceless coming through there all the time, and it was a stomping ground in a lot of ways, I guess. It was a really dope. It was like a real upper class venue too. Like it wasn't like some like rinky dink place. It was like a really clean spot. E40 would be there all the time, recording out at the studio there.
Nice.
Like it was a really dope spot. And the talent buyer there, I think his name was Thomas Johnson. He gave my band a bunch of chances. Like I got his email, we kept in touch, and bro, like really valued my opinion. Like he'd book the tour, but then it's like, well, what's the support?
Yeah.
And he would let me like kind of go ham on it and just tell him who to book, and he would give me, I would do that.
Nice.
And that was kind of like, I guess, the starting job, but I never think of it like, oh, I'm throwing the show. I just thought of it as like, I'm just helping the show sell out because I want to play a good show. I don't want to play in front of nobody.
Yeah.
And then I continued the band until college, like the first year of college. And a buddy of mine, Seth, he became an agent for Artery Global. It's like a boutique. At the time, Artery was like this huge management record label, booking agency conglomerate for metal and out of Sacramento. The owner, Eric Rushing, runs Ace of Spades over there, but I think he sold Artery recordings to like Sony or something like that. But yeah, at the time, he just got picked up by that agency and was like, hey, let me put you on like a little West Coast run. Let's see if you guys can actually tour. I like your music. You're my homie. Like, let's see what happens. Like, yeah, we're gonna go on tour. Mom, I don't need to go to school. So I honestly, like, I think we planned around winter break of that year, and we did it. And it was like a week. And honestly, it was the most brutal week of my life because like anything that I think could have gone wrong went wrong. Like, night 1, someone gets stabbed or something at the show. Night 2, someone got robbed. Night 3, the promoter like runs away with the money. Night 4, the van breaks down. Like anything like could have. I mean,
that's a good introduction to touring, isn't it? Yeah. So it's funny you're talking about. Well, first of all, I went to UCLA to study economics on my way to Wall Street as well, and got detoured into the music business. So awesome. It's funny how that happens. But you said earlier that like looking back, right, it's hard to imagine, not working in music, right? And so was there a moment or a day when you made that decision or you realized, right? Because at this point you're throwing shows, you're in a band, music is consuming your life, but at the same time you're still going to college, still thinking about Wall Street, all that. So when did that shift?
It's kind of funny. I think the metal shows specifically started dying out on ticket sales. Like I just started seeing it, like the capacities are getting way smaller. The rooms aren't packing out as much. The crowd is older. Like a year or two ago, like there would be kids my age all listening to like hardcore bands like Expire and Jibalba, and like would be like super dope. And that's what I loved about what Pinup was doing, especially at the time. Was like, oh my God, there's people my age that like this stuff too. Like, in death metal you didn't see that. In hardcore you saw it especially, but that community eventually started detracting away from the shows, and I don't think they were into it as much anymore. And my girl at the time, I think I lost my ass on a show, I remember. And I was really upset. I can't remember what show though. I just remember I lost my ass and I was super upset. And she took me on a drive, and Skyline, like here in the SF Bay area where it's like you can see the whole bay. She took me on a drive there and just chill me out, like put some calm music on, and we parked, and I started talking to her and stuff, and she showed me this electronic producer named Getter, who was her best friend's older brother. And I was like, hey, like this is what he's doing, and like you guys see, like he's with Skrillex now, like he's crushing. He's just like you, he loves metal, like all that. He found a new way to make that sound. Yeah. And it kind of hit me. I was like, she's right. Like I really need to like find the next thing. I shouldn't be sticking to what is in the past. I need to find the next thing that's exactly what I like. And a buddy of mine actually knew Getter and all that. So long story short, we had a show one night. It was Norma Jean in one room, Borgor and Getter in the other. I go to that room. I meet a bunch of people, some of my best friends to this day still. I meet at that show, and they had started taking me to a bunch of shows and doing, like, I started networking a lot more and stuff like that. I just remember, and at this point, everything built up. I got a paid salary gig with Vital. Like, they were paying me, like, you know, every month. And I was like, this is super dope. Like, I get paid to do music. Like, I'll take it.
Right.
But it got in the way of my school. Like, I was getting bad grades all of a sudden. And I just remember one day, like, it was like, what? Like, I'm in my calculus class and, like, failing it because I haven't done shit, to be honest with you. Like, I'd always be on my laptop just doing marketing stuff or answering emails. Like, I wouldn't even be, you know, listen to the class and, you know, working on, like, I don't know, Wobbleland or something like that. And then eventually I was just like, dude, screw this. Like, I just walked out of the class, and yeah, me and my friends took a road trip to Vegas instead, and, you know, never looked back. And I was like, you know what, I'm double downing. I'm not gonna half-ass it, because I knew if I, like, failed, like, everything was gone. Let's say I got, like, the worst thing happened to me, I could still go back to school and, like, pivot.
Right.
I can't, when you have an opportunity in the career you like, especially, like, a career like music, where it's like there is no real, like, direction or path of how you do it, you gotta just take it when it comes, you know, big or small.
Yeah.
Sorry for the ramble.
No, that's great, man. And that's a great insight to have, you know, at that age, kind of, you know, to see that in yourself. You know, it's funny. So I mean, I love the events business. I started out, you know, promoting shows down here in LA, and I've done events, you know, I've done a lot, you know, hundreds of corporate events, that kind of thing, or parties paid for by corporations, I'll put it that way. I decided that, like, I like throwing parties, but I liked getting paid up front instead of trying to get money at the door. So I did that for a long time. Yeah. But, you know, for me, like, and I think I saw this in an article, interview with you, talking about, like, you know, it's such a great training in attention to detail, right? And like you said before, there's so many things that can go wrong. Sometimes they all go wrong, you know, on the same night or whatever, right? But there's all these things that have to go right in order to have a successful event, for people to have a good time, to make money, to, you know, for the artist to be happy, you know, all that stuff. How does that apply now that, you know, now you have a festival business, you have the management business. I'm wondering, you know, specifically in management, how does that attention to detail and that training ground you had in events benefit?
You know what? I'll say this, the events business is kind of a crappy business, if we're being quite honest, right? It's so high risk, so low margin. It's like, if you told, like, an outside investor this, like, he'd be like, you're high. Why would I put money into this? Like, right? Yeah. I always tell, like, I've been speaking at colleges lately, and whenever they ask about what the event side is like, I always say it's like you're building a sandcastle right next to the tides. Like, all it takes is that right one to just come in and crumble it all. It's like you're just trying to build the sturdiest foundation at all times and make sure it's as stable as it can possibly be, and hope that nothing really ruins it. I will say this. I think with events, you learn a lot about risk and what the meaning of risk is, and, like, how do I mitigate my risk? How do I avoid debt? How do I take something that's so highly, not, like, I guess, investment verse, like, the investors just don't want to put money into it, but, like, how do I take something that seems like such a bad idea and make it a good idea, really? How do I maximize every ancillary and every revenue stream I could possibly think of? I mean, when you start out doing shows, and, like, let's say you're doing college events, right? Like, we're thinking, oh, like, you know what, we just need the DJ equipment, some speakers, the you know, the keg, and, you know, people come home for $5 at the door, we're good, right? Then you get to a point where it's like, okay, well, what about VIP upgrades? What about production? Like, okay, production is now like an almost borderline 6-figure production for us or something like that, right? For this one event. You know, it's not even like, you know, like a festival. It's just like a regular show. We're putting this much money into the production. What is the, you know, where are the merchandise deals we got going on? Hey, that parking lot across the street, can we take a piece out of every person that parks there? Like, can we do validation? Like, what can, like, you think of every little thing now.
Yeah.
And I think also, like, you know, thing I started doing right before COVID hit was also just like realizing that there's the major promoters and then there's indie promoters and there's an ecosystem in between, and there's a way to utilize the majors in the way that a film studio might utilize, you know, the film production companies, right? Like they go, like A24 might go to Warner Bros. And say, hey, finance this, right?
Right.
Then like we started going really heavy on stuff like that right before COVID hit, and like making deals like that.
So is that, am I right with Family Business? You have AEG Live, is that right?
Yeah, we had AEG Live for the first year, and we were talking with a different party for the second year.
Cool.
COVID hit, that paused it all, but you know, obviously on the outside of that, we were also talking to a bunch of artists, because the focus we had with ABI specifically was like, hey, we've spent 2, 3, 4 years to build a brand, right? And the brand, what's the meaning behind this name that builds consumer trust? Is it that we just do really good shows? And sorry, Siri just Siri was like, It's like, what is the meaning behind the brand of the events we do? Like, let's say Insomniac, right? Like, think of how long it took Pascal to make that brand to be what it is, and for people to trust that name for its events and the caliber of its events. And I was like, what at its core is appealing though about the events? It's the artist, right?
Sure.
So rather than I was like, with ABI, like, rather than build a whole entity that has a whole subcategory of brands, let's just focus on flipping brands with artists as the partner of the event. They have equity in the event. They're invested in the event. They're curating the event, and their name's on the event. So it's them presenting the show. It's not us, because who cares about us? Whether they're going to, with Family Business specifically, like, it was like, artists will trust, you know, Young Thug presenting a show off its first year, then ABI presents Family Business, or AEG presents Family Business its first year. Most kids don't know who the heck AEG or ABI are. Of
course.
You talk to most normal people, they'll never know what that name means. So that was the idea. And we were talking to a bunch of other artists doing the same concept. Obviously it stalled, you know, when COVID hit in March. And to be honest with you, I've been like, with ABI specifically, I've been so just like, I don't really want to be the one risking it right now with like, oh, the drive-ins, you know, the live streams. Like, there's so much going on right now. I believe there is a lot of new mediums coming out of it, but I think there's also just a lot of risk right now with just how COVID is. I mean, we're seeing it right now, how bad it's spiked in the last 2 months.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think it's just, at this point, it's like a sit back. Like, we just need to assess this. Like, we just need to wait and see.
I mean, it's funny you say, right? And I think in some ways, I mean, you're right. You know, the music business in general, you know, it's a bad investment for outsiders. Right. And you know, like you said, the level of risk is just crazy to a typical, you know, investment outlook. You know, at the same time, like, that's what creates opportunity, right? And there's entrepreneurs, you know, like yourself, like, you know, a lot of people that I came up with that were able to build businesses because it was too risky for, you know, a traditional, you know, investor, or a traditional, even, you know, even hip hop, even dance music, right? It's like those grew on the backs of entrepreneurs who weren't afraid of the risks that the major labels were afraid of. Right. And, you know, whatever, they didn't have as much to lose, or they, you know, they just had a different perspective on it. And so I think that's a really interesting dynamic of, like, you know, so much of what we think of as amazing businesses today never existed, except for someone took this incredible risk that was really stupid, and it paid off, right?
100%. I agree. I think for me, it's always been a challenge of, like, how do I make something that seems so stupid, and I acknowledge it's stupid, but how do I make it seem so appealing? And to be honest with you, I think a huge part of it, that's why we did, like, the artist partner festivals, because guess what? Like, you go to an investor that's kind of cool and hip, what sounds better? It's like, hey, Young Thug has his own festival. You want to invest? Or, hey, I'm throwing my own festival. You want to invest? You're one company. Like,
Yeah.
no, they'd be like,
Yeah, of course.
no, who the fuck are you, right?
Right.
But when you, and I took that actually from the film biz, where it's like a lot of the investment starts coming in. Was like, hey, this director is attached to this script. The writer is this guy. The lead actor is this guy. And then they invest. Investors come in, pulling into the money and doing the slate deals. Whereas like, you know, I was like, well, if I go in saying ABI is hosting Family Business Fest and these artists are performing, it's one concept. But if I say Young Thug's hosting his own event, and these artists performing, it's another dynamic.
No question. Yeah. So talk about the management business a little bit. You know, as you started to make that transition and add management, I'm curious, two things, you know, how is your approach different than maybe other managers, given your background on the live side? And then also, what did you do to kind of learn the parts of the business that you didn't know because you came from live?
Dude, that's a really good question. I'm trying to think where to start. Where the way I've always managed an artist here and there on the side, always when I was in the live stuff. And to be honest, I had a few that went really far. And I think maybe had I focused on them like fully, I probably would still be the manager. But you know what? At the time, I was so absorbed in live, and I was like, this is all I want to do. That I didn't really put much time into it. But when COVID hit, I mean, okay, well, let me backstory it. I had, again, like a client that I had signed after Family Business, and we were planning the 2021 events and like the calendar for this year, what artists we were going to partner with. So I had some downtime, but an artist that played the Family Business event was an artist named 10K Cash. He had a lot of steam going. He was getting signed to Def Jam. Like he blew up on TikTok from doing the Woe dance, and like just a lot of good things were going for him. And he didn't have management, so few words went by, and you know, eventually he was like, hey, let's do a management thing together. And I went running with it. You know what? Like I think so with Family Business Fest, it was such a challenge because it was like in a city that I've never done a show before, in a state that I've never even been in before, and it was in a demographic that I'd never done a show before. I never did a full-blown hip-hop event of that caliber in my life. You know? I was like, I'd only done like maybe 1,000 cap room shows here and there. But never like to that kind of budget and extent. And I was just like, that was just my all-in card. Because right before Family Business Fest, I was just like kind of having a moment of like contemplation of whether I wanted to do music anymore or not. But I kind of said, no, I'm just going to double down, but this time I'm do everything different. And when 10K let me manage him, I just kind of ran with it just because it was just like something so fresh, so new, so much opportunity was there, and I knew it. And I liked the kid. He was super dope. And, you know, it worked out. Like, you know, he got on Def Jam. He became like Universal Music Group's like #1 TikTok artist like in the year, competing against like Justin Bieber and all them. New York Times did an interview with him, gave him his top 10. And, you know, we did a lot of growth together. You know, we got him an agency. We, you know, got him some shows and festival plays going on and all that. And, you know, I think when COVID hit, well, you know, I'll tell you this. 10K has always been the kind of dude that just like he wants to do his own thing. Like he's that wild teen. You gotta know he's like 18. You know, he's a child. Like he always wants to do his own thing. He's always thinking of the next like wacky thing to do in his life. And I just kind of noticed like I need to expand on my business. I can't just have one client. You know.
Of course.
And
it
would have been enough. You know, and I just had decided like, you know what. I have some downtime, and I'm gonna go find new artists that I really believe in and really like and resonate with me and all that. And so, truthfully, I mean, I guess this year is when management really took off for me because I just started signing a bunch of acts. So I started with Spaceman Zack, and then I signed an artist named Truth, then I signed an artist named Harper, and then I signed an artist named Will Clay. And I think it's kind of funny because I noticed all of them revolve around the same sound. They're all kind of like, not Will Clay, he's different, but like most of them revolve around like that dark or emo rap sound that's really popping off right now. And I think that was kind of like, I think full circle for me because it's like, you know, we talked about like how with electronic music, my ex had been telling me like, hey, you should be looking for the next sound that matches what you're into, not the
Right.
past. And I saw these artists, I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what she was talking about like 5 years ago. And
That's great.
I mean, emo rap's been around for a minute, right? Like
Sure.
Lil Peep, Triple X, Juice WRLD, all that. But I think now it's like it's a very fruitful time for it because it's like it's looking for its new ringleader.
Mhm.
And there's artists now that are just like blending it in different forms that those other artists weren't doing it before.
Right.
And then we see the MGK record and all that. So it's like, we're in a really good time for rock and hip hop to really blend in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you find yourself in now, in management, what's the stuff that you've had to learn on the job, right? That you, like I said, you've been doing it kind of all along, but, did you run into gaps or potholes, so to speak?
Yeah, all the time.
As you started, yeah.
It happens. I mean, I think.
And where do you go with that stuff?
I think the biggest challenge is the artistic mind versus like the strategic business mind. I always say is left brain versus right brain. It's like,
Sure.
As a manager, you want to counter the artist. The artist is going to be an emotional person. He's going to be, highly creative. He's going to have his character flaws probably. And you as a manager need to be the business guy. You need to be the suit at the end. I mean, if you've seen Entourage, you always see the dynamic, right? Over there
Right.
with like, Eric and Vincent Chase in the show. It's tacky as it is. It really actually depicts it really well. Where it's like one is, very emotional, very, go with the flow, whatever kind of guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other guy is very like to the point, like I'm gonna run the shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the challenges I've learned just dealing with artists, sometimes they say things like that doesn't make sense. Sometimes they want to make a decision that's probably not the best for them, and or you feel it's not the best for them. Sometimes, you want to put input in certain areas that they don't want to put in. I don't know. Like, I think the biggest challenge is really just learning your dynamic with each artist and where their comfort zone is with you and where it isn't. Learning how you can have control with them or like have yourself in line with them without like holding them back or like not being liberating for them, I think at the end, I'd like to think as a manager, I'm pretty artist centric compared to most. Like, I believe the artist at the end of the day has to always make the decisions of what he wants more than anyone else. And if he doesn't, I think there's a big issue there, He has to know himself better than anyone else. And I look into that for every artist I sign. I don't like to be too controlling. I like to be the guy that comes in to consult, to build the team, and to bring the opportunities. And if there's hey, well, what do we do with marketing? I could build that out. I could build the plan out for them.
Right.
On a level of everything else, like I always think it's just like it's kind of like a relationship. You just kind of gotta you learn with your partner where her comfort zones are not. It's the same thing with an artist, right? Like you learn what his comfort zones are or her comfort zones are, and what they're not. Sure.
No, that's great. I wish you had told me that when I started my career as a manager, because I always felt like, I was young and I was a fan of the artist that I managed, right? And if I look back, I was more of their biz dev person, right? So I would go out and try to hunt down opportunities, but I never really argued with my clients, right? And I never really told them like, hey, I think you're making a mistake and let's try it this way, or I never really challenged them. And I think that was a huge mistake. It took me a long time to get to that level of maturity. Well, now I'll challenge anybody. But I think I was trying to be their friends too much.
Yeah, I mean,
and so it's great. It's great to hear you say that.
If I could piggyback on that for a sec, I think the one thing I learned, especially, is like, I don't get me wrong. I've definitely fought clients early on, especially we would have terrible arguments with each other because we wouldn't see eye to eye on certain things. And I think the thing I learned the most with management is the art of communication. How can you say something to them that makes them want to listen to you, right?
Yeah, of course.
Even if it's not what even if they don't want it, at least it doesn't cause a fuss,
Right. Yeah.
And that's the art of of being a good manager. I think it's like you can convince your artist to do what you believe is best for him, or if not, at least hear him out, be able to hear him out and hear why his perspective might be right. And there's been times, 10K Cash, great example. There were certain things we would fight about for months, but then, to be honest with you, eventually I listened, and at the end of the day, when all's said and done, he was right.
Sure.
And I can acknowledge that.
Yeah.
There was other things I was definitely right about too, but
Right.
That's the dynamic of being a manager.
Of course. No, and like you said, that's how it is in every relationship, and that's how it needs to be, right? Like, you need to be able to listen as much as you need to be able to argue a point.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, now I work with clients, and my goal is to get them to see my ideas as their own ideas. Yeah. Right. And so, you want to lead them to something and then have them embrace it and own it as if it was theirs. But I think, I certainly made that mistake early on. I think a lot of managers do that. They see themselves too much just serving their clients as opposed to leading their clients.
It's like, I think there's like a dynamic of this in my college like presentations. I always have like this one slide, and like I said, we were talking about left brain versus right brain, right? It's like on one end I have a photo of like Lear Cohen, and on the other end I have a photo of like Rick Rubin. And I think they're like really good examples of industry players throughout. Yeah. Not managers necessarily, but we see this with managers too, right? Like on one end you have the mogul, right? The guy that's pure business. Like, he gives no fucks. He's a shark. Like, he'll go after it. And he's really good at what he does. Like, he's clearly at the position he is because he was so good at what he does in that regards. But then you have Rick Rubin, who's like the Buddhist monk, music producer that's so artist-centric, so artist-friendly. He, he's created massive artists. Like, he's breeded acts, like, from every genre you can think of, from heavy metal to hip hop to pop, like whatever, indie rock, whatnot. And I would say, like, I think like in any part of this industry, you kind of want to be the guy in the middle that can like bridge the two dudes. Like, you could be like the eclectic A&R producer guy, but you also want to be able to be that sharky mogul whenever you need to be. You know, obviously in the favor of your clients, but that's kind of how I see it. I feel like a lot of managers too, like, you see guys like Sal from EXO, or you see like Moshe Leezy, and people look to them like holy shit, they built the brand, they've done all this. But then there's also managers that like they haven't done all that, but they've actually like they've built a robust business for the artist. It's all in the dynamic of your client.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So you talked a little bit about partnering with Young Thug on the festival business. And that, I love that idea of just, helping artists build festival brands. So you kind of told me the advantages of that, which I think make perfect sense. What's the downside of partnering with big talent?
Yeah. I think the biggest risk of doing that is really just like the artist being the face of a brand. Not every artist is good at promoting themselves, honestly. And I think that was one challenge we saw there. It's like, I mean, if you know Thug's brand, he's a silent guy. Like, he has never been this PR heavy dude, like doing every interview that gets thrown at him. That's not him. He's pretty chill. And I think that was like one challenge we saw. It's like, okay, well, we need to make, like, we can get the billboard write-ups and all this stuff, but we need him to like be forward facing with it as much as possible too. And I respect him and what he does, because like he's clearly at the level of an artist he is. He's clearly inspired the genres and the generation of artists that he has. Doing what he does best. But I think that's like, looking back at it, I think that's like something I saw was being a huge challenge there in that particular event.
So when you go, COVID's over, hopefully someday. And you go back to that business model and you want to start building other festivals in partnership with talent. What do you look for in the right partner?
So, okay, if I could go back in time and just like mention what was with Doug that was so appealing, it was the fact that we're talking about an artist that is a very good live performer. He's always done really good shows. I mean, I see him at Rolling Loud all the time, and I was like, this dude's crushing it. Iconic, legendary Atlanta rapper. Like, we're talking about a guy that literally this current generation of rappers almost are like 1 degree away from him. You know, they're bred through him.
Sure.
Him, Future, Gucci, all those guys. So I knew he had the stature. I knew he had to have something big in the works because he had a slew of like slow releases the last year or so. So I was like, okay, this guy must be working on something big, and his team confirmed that they were. And I hate to say, I think we just had a gut feeling that he was about to do something so big and make his biggest hits yet. And we knew that he had all the cards to be a superstar. And at the end of the day, we just thought it would be a great way to get him early and work with him on time. And sure enough, as we talked with his team, they're like, hey, he does have a new album. He's got all these collabs with these artists. Like, it's going to be a big year for us. There's a lot of PR going into it and a big tour. And I'm like, perfect. Like, this is exactly what we're looking for. Yeah. So it just made sense. I think with other artists that we were in contact with, it was the same thing. Okay, also, not to mention with Thug, like, it was also like a situation where it's like, he's not an arena act yet, you know? And we knew that it's like, he could be, like, we could push him that way if we partner enough and we were strategic enough. Yeah. And we wanted to do that. And so I think that's something we've been looking with a lot of the artists that we've been working with, because we admit we're not Live Nation, we're not AEG, we don't have billions of dollars to work with here. Like, we're a boutique of 2 dudes. Right. And we, I think we're just really good at our jobs. At the end of the day, we push and we take the extra mile to make sure every show sells out. That's a good job. And we're looking for artists that we can push to that next level of artistry and help them at the same time build a brand that the consumers trust. Like, kind of what Camp Flogna became for Tyler, the Creator. And it started being like a very small thing, and that was a huge, huge phenomenon. We still have Dodger Stadium, you know? Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, and I especially love the, the idea of looking for, like, what does someone have left in them, right? Because, you talk about the Live Nations, they make their business on people who are past their prime that can that's an overstatement, right? And obviously they have a lot of businesses they're in, right? But if I'm generalizing, right, you take artists who are past their prime that can tour forever, that can sell tickets forever,
give them global touring deals.
Yeah, right. And which is fine. I mean, that's a business model, right? But I think it's much harder to say, okay, well, this person's achieved, X, but we think that they have this untapped potential still in them. Yeah. And to me, those are the ones, right? Like, you get people on the bubble, and like that's the best feeling in the world.
I remember when I was like younger and I was working with Vital, like Santi and Max, the buyers, the founders really, but Santi and Max, they were so well versed in value buys. Like, they just had a good idea. Like, this artist is gonna be like, okay, he's a 10K act now. He'll be 45K by show day. Like, he'll be a 60. And I mean, like, the proof is in the pudding. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, they were getting artists like, Nightmare for like fractions of what he was worth by show day, or like Rez, fractions of the price of what she was worth show day. And I think me and they'll probably kill me for saying this, but like, their margins were always great because of that. Like, they would always give the artist for what it was worth day of, you know? And I always tried to do that too. I was like, well, who's gonna be popping this year? Like, who's gonna be going off? Like, can I make an analysis here? I will tell you this. I spoke, a friend of mine at Live Nation, her name is Jackie Bito. She took up a Carrie Davies role now at the communications, but she and I had talked back earlier this year, and she was asking, why would an artist go to you and do this with you when you're like, a boutique versus like us?
Sure.
And I was like, truthfully, it's the same dynamic of like, why would I buy a Honda or why would I get a Bugatti, right? It's like, there's a bespoke factor, I think, to working with us. Like we actually have attention to detail. We're not limited to a certain amount of parties. We can shop this around to anybody we want. It doesn't have to be Live Nation presents or NAG presents event. It could be a Spotify or Apple Music presents this event.
Mm-hmm.
We have more flexibility as to what to do to get the concept done right.
Yep.
And we have more incentive to get it done the way they want it, you know? And to be honest, we can maneuver hoops way easier than you guys.
Sure.
You guys, I ever work with a corporation? It's like, how long does it take for you to get that one marketing idea you had approved and come back to you? It's like by the time they approve it, it's like it's worthless now. I can't even do anything with this. You know? No,
you're right. And I think it's always a good sign when people at big corporations don't understand what you're doing, or they don't, or it doesn't seem feasible to them. That usually means you're on the right track.
She's a homie too. She's been super nice to me and super good to me, but like.
Sure, but it's a different paradigm, right?
Yeah, it's a different world entirely. You know, it's definitely a different world entirely. You know?
Yeah. So you talked about pivoting the business this year. Where's it going? Tell me what you're most excited about. What do you what's next year looking like to the best of your knowledge?
Man, I wish I knew. I wish I had a good answer for you there. On the management level, I think I'm just like really focused on my current clients, getting them where they want to go. Obviously, all of them. The one thing I will say, I fucking love hip hop. I love what it's doing. Like, dude, artists can be independent now. Like, it's insane to see the numbers my clients are pulling in, and they haven't even hit their full potential. Like, they're just getting started. But like, it's just, it blows my mind. It's like, I think in 10 years ago, you told me this was possible. Like the numbers are hitting, the money they can make off of streaming. I'd have been like, you're a liar.
Right.
Get out of here. But the fact of the matter is, like, artists now can be fully independent. They don't need a record label. A lot of music's so niche now anyways. It's like, there is no real incentive to go to a label, right? It's like, you're not going to end up on radio. The real only thing I can see is global marketing. That's about the only incentive I can see. But besides that, it's like, I've worked with artists at majors. I've worked with artists that are independent. The majors, all the marketing just do is hire out vendors anyways. You can find the vendors yourself and hire them yourself, if you have the capital to do so.
Yep.
And there's a lot of ways to maneuver it. So I think right now, obviously my clients want to tour. I want to keep pushing that independent paradigm to finding new strategic ways to like get the resources and that they could receive from, like, let's say a label, but like not the same commitment level, And I think we're starting to see some labels start to realize that too. We're seeing more labels be open to like single deals and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's kind of tough for me to tell you where we're gonna go in the next year, just because like even like 5 months ago, what I thought I was gonna do, it's not even in my head anymore.
Sure.
And it feels like every few months I have to keep changing my plan.
Which is, I mean, that's the world we're in, right? And again, back to those roots in the events business, it's like, to me, what hit me when I first started throwing clubs was like, we had a great night, made some money, everybody had fun, the next morning everyone's talking about it, and we are like, oh shit, we have another show coming up. Right. And now we're behind, right? Or we're basically where we were a week ago or a month ago or whatever. Right.
Exactly.
And I think that's very, relevant to just where business is today, is that like, like say, we don't know, nobody knows what's around the corner. And to some extent we never have, but we just weren't aware of it. Right. Yeah. And so I think this has made us all a little bit more aware of the precarious position that we're always in.
100%. I just tell my friends, I feel like, we live, especially when we're younger, we live life thinking it's like a straight linear line up, right? Yeah. The fact of the matter, and like there's like a point A and a point C, and it's like, oh, point A is like, I'm boring. Point C is like, I'm gonna get married, have kids, a wife, like all this good stuff, right? But I'm like, I always tell my friends, like, life is not like that. It's like jagged, it's like abstract art more than anything else. And the fact of the matter is, like, your point A was when you started is the point Z that you were intending to go to is probably not where you're going to end up going.
Sure.
Go figure. Like, my whole career, it's like, I thought I was going to be when I first started, I thought it was probably gonna be like a rock A&R. Then I ended up being like a rock promoter, and now I'm electronic. I'm in hip hop. If you told me I would ever do hip hop music, I would have called you a liar. I would have thought I would even like hip hop. I loved hip hop growing up as a kid, but like, I never just thought that would be a thing. And now I'm doing it. But
that's great.
I try to take my clients on, like, I have like 1 year plans for them, but I have like a 6 month plan, a 9 month plan, 3 month plan. I almost, to be honest with you, I focus more on the 1 to 3 months than I do on everything afterwards, because that's contingent upon the first 3 months, 6 months.
Absolutely.
You know?
No, it's great. I love that.
Nice at the end of the year.
For sure. Okay, I gotta do a little lightning round with you before we let you go. What's your favorite city to travel to?
Honestly, Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a vibe. It's
I've had a good time in Dallas.
Yeah, good vibe. Good town. Good friends.
Yeah, Dallas is one of those, like, it's surprising. Like, it doesn't seem on paper like it'd be a fun place. Just because, I don't know, it's in the middle of Texas and it's, whatever. But I've loved it there.
Deep Ellum, Party Central. Oh my
God.
Yeah. What I love about Texas, like, okay, being in California, I always thought it was a yeehaw state.
Right.
Like, everyone's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
I go there, they're nicer than California. So honestly, better hospitality. And I just remember, it was actually the week of Family Business when it really hit me how nice these people are. Like, it's like 11 o'clock at night or something like that. We're getting a late dinner at Deep Ellum. Go to a bar. The bartender's hanging out with us, talking to us and all that. And it's like, oh, well, guess what, guys? I'm about to hop off my shifts. How about we all go bar hopping together? And I'm like, really? Like, yeah, like, super friendly. Like, she doesn't care.
Nice.
Hang out with us. We hang out. Her friends come over. Like, we all hang and talk. And, like, we just keep going. It's just like people. And it was like, not like by always, it's not like people were hitting on each other and like that. It was like literally just friends.
Yeah.
Like, we're just being friends.
Yeah.
Night.
That's so
and
cool.
That was what kind of hit me. I was just like, damn, people here are sweet. Like, they don't care. And then my friend Mike Zemer, he's a promoter too. He hits me up there. He's like, oh, I'm down the block. I go link up with him. Like, it was just such a vibe. I don't know. Dallas is awesome. Good food too.
All right. Who's your favorite DJ?
Ooh. That's a good question. I want to say right now, Gesaffelstein.
Okay.
Yeah. I love dark music. He just crushes it.
Nice. What's the last great book you read?
I read a lot. I read a few other books afterwards, but I think Conscious Capitalism was a really good book.
Yeah.
It was by I forget his name off the top of my head right now, but
I've seen it. I haven't read it, but it's on my list.
Yeah.
Art
of War is a really good book too.
For sure.
Classic, but
absolutely. Yeah, that's one I read every few years.
Yeah.
Kind of good reminders.
You gotta refresh your mind on that one.
Absolutely. What movie do you think you've seen the most in your life?
I have a Mandalorian tattoo on my arm, so probably Star Wars or Batman Begins.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Who's taught you the most that you haven't met?
Question. Probably Donald Passman, honestly.
That's a good one. If you're in the music business, you need to learn from Don Passman for sure. For sure. That's great.
I've read that book every time he updates it. Like,
I mean, that's another book you read over and over.
Well, hey, here's the thing. My boss at Pinup, when I first got started, the first thing he ever told me was, you want to work in this business? You want to go to LA? Read this book. He's taught everyone that you look up to has read this book, and that's why they're good at their job. It's the Bible. And he was right.
No question. Yeah.
USC, I was just speaking at USC in Kevin Lyman's class, and the students, I put that as a resource for them. They're like, oh yeah, we have to read that every year.
Yeah.
I'm like, right on. Okay. Yeah. It is the Bible.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good advice for sure. Okay, last one. If I worked for you, what's something I would hear you say over and over?
Or something like, Jesus fucking Christ, are you stupid?
Okay.
Let me be honest with you.
Yeah, and sometimes it has to be said.
Yeah, my friends always call me Ari Gold because like I have like that attitude. But it's like I'm also like the friendliest dude when I'm working with my buddies,
Okay. That's great, man. Thanks for doing this. It's so much fun.
Dude,
digging
thank
in
you.
with
This
you.
is awesome.
No, I really enjoyed it. I'd love to have you back. Hopefully we'll do it in person once we're
Please.
done with all this quarantine.
Yeah, super. Wow. Thank you for putting me on this show too.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. So how should everybody follow you and stay up on everything you're doing?
I mean, if they want to email me, my email is Cameron at Inertia, INERTIA management, MGMT.com. INERTIA MGMT.com. My Instagram is at It's Almasi, ITSALMASI. I don't really use Twitter or anything else though.
Cool.
Not really a TikTok thing either. So,
Right on.
yeah.
Well, we'll be watching for what's next.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that was Cameron Almasi on Rebel Radio. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. Love to hear what you thought. Hit us up on Twitter at Rebel Radio Net. You can leave us a comment on our Facebook page, Rebel Radio Net. You can find videos of a lot of our interviews on our YouTube page. And most importantly, come back next week for more Rebel Radio. Peace.